Hey, Trojan family, what's up? Welcome back to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud. Thank you, as always, for making this a part of your day. Another transfer portal commitment for the Trojans, capping off a very successful weekend as we head into what will be a pretty important week for this team when you think about not just continuing with the transfer portal, but also the looming opening of the defensive coordinator position. I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. Some more, well, I'm not going to call it intel, but more just kind of speculation and some possibilities. So we'll get into that more tomorrow. But tonight, the second commitment for USC from the portal, linebacker Devin Bryant, formerly of Washington. I talked about him a good amount of time on a video just 2 days ago when a visit was scheduled. But for those of you that didn't hear it, and now that he is officially a Trojan, we can kind of break down why I think this is a good signing. You know, this is not one of those big name, high profile backers that I talked about. The one, like, for instance, the K-State kid was the one I really wanted. He ultimately goes and signs with Texas Tech. We see already Texas Tech is opening up that checkbook. I believe they signed the Cincinnati quarterback today, Sorsby, for like $5 million for one season. I wouldn't even call him the best quarterback in the transfer portal. That's just my opinion. So Texas Tech is on a different level when it comes to spending. I've said all along USC is going to be able to spend, I believe, in this transfer portal cycle. I think they'll have the most they've probably been able to for the type of players they want. Maybe not just vast in terms of just high sheer numbers, but they'll, for singular players, probably pay more to get who they want at those desired positions. But I think Texas Tech is on a different level. USC is not shelling out $5 million for any player. Now, obviously, they don't need a quarterback in this instance, but yeah, that's wild. So for those of you that are like, man, USC behind the eight ball, I mean, this NIL era is just so different. Like, just because you're not paying $5 million for a quarterback doesn't mean you're poor or can't compete in NIL. But there are certain moments, and this is obviously obviously USC is not going after a quarterback, but there are certain instances for specific players that sometimes it's just not worth it. You're like, man, it is not worth paying that kind of price for a player that's going to hamstrung the rest of our roster. You know, in other professional leagues, you have cap spaces. So you have to kind of say, okay, yeah, we only are paying this much for a certain position because it's going to affect the rest of our roster. Now in college, there's no cap, really. There's going to be the rev share at $20 million, but with the still red line or the gray area of the other side of NIL, there really is no cap. So some people are just going to get priced out. So anyway, that's a whole different story, but I just say that, like, you can see some of these teams are kind of on a different playing field when it comes to cash allocation. But Devin Bryant, I think, is a very solid signing for USC. A former SoCal kid, went to St. John Bosco, and at Washington, ultimately was third in tackles last season, finishing the year with 62 total tackles on the year. So very successful. Kind of a true, can have some versatility, but I think more of a true middle linebacker, thumper, good run stuffer, good gap integrity, just a sound football player, good tackler. So you're going to get out of him, you know, solid production when needed. I still believe that USC will look to sign one more backer in this class, and potentially one that maybe is a little bit more expensive, a little bit more high profile, that can come in, that they see really, truly pushing for that starting spot. That's not to say Bryant won't do that, and that's not to say Bryant can't do that, but I think they'll maybe go after one other kind of high profile guy that just to really round out that room and make it to be one of those, like, really competitive rooms that has a lot of options, that has not only depth, but guys that you can count on. You're not just like forced, okay, well, we got to play these two guys, these three guys, because everyone beneath is that much either inexperienced or that much just less talent that we don't really have that option. If you have a well-rounded room, at least if one guy's struggling, the drop-off is not big. So if you have a game like, if you go into the season with Dez Stevens and Jaden Walker as the supposed starters, but I think that's what we're looking at right now. Well, hey, at least you know you got a guy like Bryant that you can either sub in, or if one guy's struggling, he takes over and he can be your run stuffer because he's proven it. and did a good job at Washington. When you look at how we say, I'll say it every time, PFF grades, not the Bible, but a good baseline to draw of. When you look at run defense grades, so last season, Eric Gentry, 67.5. That was the best for the Trojans among starters. Desmond Stevens, 53.3, and Jaden Walker, 48.3 run defense grades. Devin Bryant, 73.8. So the highest run defense grade of any of the Trojans linebacker. Also had a 73.1 tackling grade. And one of his best run defense games was actually against Oregon in that final game of the season when he did play. So a guy that really, Washington, for all their kind of roster faults, I guess. I think they're a good football team for sure, well coached, but they were pretty stacked at linebacker. So I think he was more of just one of those guys a little bit lost in the wash and looking for an opportunity and can come to SC and compete and at very minimum be a very valuable, versatile depth piece. And at best, maybe he competes and wins that starting job down the line. So he spoke with Greg Biggins of Rivals after the commitment. He was obviously here this weekend visiting. And he said, there were a lot of reasons why I chose USC. I had a great visit, and I was able to connect with Coach Lincoln Riley and Coach Rob Ryan. The knowledge that Coach Ryan has of the game is second to none, and the history of linebackers that he has developed over the years was something that stood out to me. He also says, I've always liked USC growing up. I'm familiar with the campus, visited a ton back in high school. I know a lot of the players on the team, and I'm very excited about all the guys coming back. I think we'll be able to accomplish a lot this upcoming year, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So, homecoming, coming back home, grew up with some of the guys on the team, so all of that makes total sense. The interesting nugget there, met Rob Ryan, talked about Rob Ryan's history with linebackers, knowledge of the linebackers in the defense. I don't want to read too much into that. At this point, there's not a DC in place that we know of, at least not anywhere from behind the scenes. So Rob Ryan, obviously not following Dan Lynn to Penn State. I think we already knew that. That would have happened probably pretty quickly, you would assume. But clearly there's still, at this point, seeing him as within the future framework of the defense if he is meeting prospective players and essentially recruiting, transfer portal guys. So that's just another kind of little tidbit in this of okay, is the DC already done and we just don't know about it? And, the staff at B is all going to be returning? Or is it still just in kind of a wait and see? And it's well, you're here for now, so, at least help us get this, and then we'll see if we make a change in a week. Just interesting. So, because I wonder that, we talked about when Jontez Williams committed, it's okay, this is the number one quarterback prospect in the class. There's got to be some clarity on what the future looks like. And I think we knew, what I do a video yesterday, 2 days ago, Trevon Reed, we knew how important he would be to keep, but he, put out a message, a kind of cryptic message, but kind of led you to believe he would be back, whether it was a re-signed contract, whether it was him alluding to who the DC is going to be, whatever, but it was kind of taken as in between the lines of okay, Reed is going to be back, whether it's with the new DC in house hiring, whatever. But now it's okay, does this mean Rob Ryan's going to be back? So I don't know. I don't have the answer for you. I'm just thought that was an interesting quote to read, that he not only met with Rob Ryan, but mentioned about how he's developed linebackers over the years, and that's what stood out to him specifically. So alluding to one of the main reasons that he wanted to be here was to play for Rob Ryan and get that tutelage. So something interesting to monitor that we will continue, obviously, here at USC LAFB to keep you posted on. He also tweeted out after committing, been the underdog my whole life, overlooked, doubted, counted out, but God keeps opening doors no one else saw coming. Fight on. So, stoked to be a Trojan. That's all you can ask from these kids, especially ones that are coming from someone else and ultimately get here via the transfer portal. And it's great to get a kid that's from SoCal, knows the tradition and the history of USC, and specifically the history of linebacker at USC, a position that needs to get back to that history, to that dominance. Because if this team wants to be great and this team wants to be national championship worthy, it's going to obviously take every position, of course, but it's going to start with the leadership and the dominance in that linebacker room, because that has been the framework for USC dominant defenses. I mean, obviously every position has had dominating players, but the linebacking room is one that has not been the same for a long time. So I'm not necessarily saying Devin Bryant's going to be that, but I think him being from here understands that, and he's been able to have the production at Washington and the run stuffing ability to, hey, even if he comes in and he's a first down backer and that's it, or a third and short backer and that's it, that's something they were lacking last year. If you have 3rd and 2 situations, goal line situations, so maybe he's not your 3-down backer, but hey, he can be your goal to go, short yardage backer, similar to how a running back would be in short yardage situations. Worth it. Great. If he can be that, amazing. So, last thing, he will join a room now. We're still waiting. I think Tamir Robinson, if I was looking ahead of this because I'm, it's so much going on, but all over the place. I don't think Tamir Robinson has re-signed yet. Haven't heard of him entering the portal. I expected him to re-sign. So obviously there's still a few names out there, but as of now, he will be joining, Desmond Stevens, Elijah Newby, and Jaden Walker, along with AJ Tuateli. And then you have your 3 incoming freshmen, obviously, as well, with Sean Scott, Talanoa Ely, and Taylor Johnson. So that's your linebacking room as of now. We'll see if Tamir Robinson re-signs. And then, like I said, I think they'll still go after one of the higher profile guys to add to the room as well. All right. Be back again all day tomorrow. We'll talk some more defensive coordinator. A lot of news. Raheem Morris fired at Atlanta. Obviously, he's a great defensive coordinator. Not a lot of college lineage, but was the DC with the Rams when Coach Henney was with the Rams. Knows LA. He's a player's coach. Is that an option? We'll talk a lot of different things of what's out there. Al Golden, obviously some connections with Chad Bowden. His season's now done with the Bengals season being wrapped up. Is it a DC that's still in the College Football Playoff? A lot of stuff we can talk about. So we'll get into that a little bit more tomorrow. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe here at the USC LAFB YouTube channel. Make sure you're up to date on all things USC here from the LAFB network. Appreciate you, family. As always, fight on. Hey, Trojan family, thank you so much for hanging out and watching the USC LAFB show. Before you go, let me tell you quickly about our friends over at Sleeper. Go right now, download the Sleeper app. It's the #1 sports app, not just for season-long fantasy, but they've got live pickers, they've got live stat updates, they've got a chat that you can chat with other users, plus the daily pick'em, which is a blast, or daily fantasy, whatever you want to call it. You go and pick 2 to 8 players across any sports. If you're talking USC, go choose Jade Maiyava in his next matchup. Pick more or less passing yards, more or less touchdowns. You stack those, and you can win real money. When you go to make your first deposit, make sure you use our promo code USCLAFB. You're going to get a match deposit up to $100. Put in $100, you get $100 free to play with from Sleeper. Put in $10, they'll match you that $10, so now you're sitting at $20 to play with. But also, right now, for any new users, no deposit required. You get $20 free entry. You can stack both. You can get the $20 for free. Go make a deposit. Use USC LAFB, and now you've got a bunch of free money to play with right there on the Sleeper app. Check it out, Trojan family, and when you do, tell them the guys at the USC LAFB sent you.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.